Caleb, my friend, we have I guess you could say, interesting topic. It gets people up in arms, on the fence. A lot of people are about this topic, the calendar of Major League Soccer. And it looks like it's going to change. I even have a clip I'm going to show in a little bit about Don Garber talking about the playoffs and why he thinks it's important. I want to show you that, see what you think about that as well. But before we get into that, how are you doing, my friend? How is life treating you? How's MLS been this year for you?
Yeah, man, I'm so happy to be here. Finally connected to get on your show here and chat a little bit, get to know each other a bit. It's been fun. I've been great. Life's been good, and MLS has been. It's a fun season as a whole. As a Charlotte FC fan, it's definitely been a roller coaster. A lot of downs, ups. We'll see how the rest of the season plays out.
Okay, so I'll save this clip for a little bit, but just off the rip, what is one of the main reasons why you want to see the Major League Soccer schedule change from what it is right now, which is February to October regular season? Playoffs are late October until early December. They want to change it from the August to May schedule, which is what most big leagues around the world follow. What is one of the main reasons why you want to change it to we'll call it Euro calendar?
I'll let me preface this by also saying that I am the biggest proponent and pusher of MLS being as unique as possible. I am all for Americanization of the game. I love when MLS does like quirky, weird things. And I say that because most people who are like me don't want to go to the traditional EU calendar. The main reason for me is it comes down to long-term growth of the league.
Hey, if you're enjoying the video, make sure you give it a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are 60 subscribers away from hitting 8,000, and our goal is to hit that number by the end of July. And with your help, I know we will reach that goal. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. Now, on to the video.
I do think there will be some short-term issues with this switch. But I believe the long-term benefit of aligning the transfer window with the European one is going to help MLS in the long term, and in theory, improve attendances regardless of weather. The idea is to get to the league to the point where it's such an attractive draw, you don't want to miss out, right? Like, and how do you do that? By increasing the quality of the league. Like, there's a quality issue in MLS. It's progressed a ton since when I first started watching in 2012, 2013. It's come a long way. But I think for those, everyone says, hey, we need to increase the spending, we need to increase the cap. None of that matters if you're on the current schedule. Because me having conversations, our sporting director at Charlotte FC, Zoran Kraneta, has been very vocal about switching the schedule over to the European one. He's been very vocal about it, publicly vocal about it. And it's because when you're doing business in January, teams don't want to let go of players midseason. A, so first, your pool of players decreases that you can sign. And then B, the ones that are willing to let go, they're like, hey, you need to pay a premium for this player because we can't just lose this, even if he's a depth guy, right? A lot of MLS teams like to go after sort of these fringe depth guys in the top 5 leagues. Those players become more expensive to sign. And so it doesn't matter if we increase the cap. It doesn't matter. It does, but it's still a hindrance regardless of that. So for me, I want to see the league improve. I want to see the league get to the next level. I want to see the league compete, in the top 8 leagues, right? And the only way we can do that is by switching the schedule over to the European one.
Yeah, well, also, too, I want to talk about or debunk some of these talking points that people have of why we can't do this, right? Because we both see why you can't do this, how it's bad for the league. It's going to ruin the league. I'm not going to go to any games. You hear it all, right? But what you just said is important. Let's talk about that first, the transfer window, right? I have seen countless times that teams have had to sell their best player in the middle of their season this summer because, like you said, is the primary transfer window. A lot of these big teams are like, hey, listen, we want this guy now. We don't want him in this. We don't want him in the winter. We want him right now to be in training for the preseason to get acclimated to his new team, his teammates, all that. And a lot of teams end up selling their best player in the middle of the summer, in the middle of the year, which absolutely kills your momentum. You have to find a replacement for this guy. It's just not good. Maybe it's good business money wise, but it's not good business for your team, right? It hurts your team drastic. It's a bad move for your team. And I remember this offseason that Columbus Crew, they got an offer for Cucho Hernandez, right? And so they sold him literally the opening day of Major League Soccer. They sold him the first day of the season, like literally opening day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And they didn't have a replacement. And I want to say it was in late February? I don't remember exactly when it was, but it just, they haven't even replaced him yet because they had to wait until the summertime to get a striker. So they had to play their first 6 months of their season, which they've been good to their point, Columbus Crew, but they had to play their first 6 months of the season without a striker.
I think to add to that real quick, I think it just hurts the competitive integrity of the league.
Yes.
Like you can be the top team for the first 6 months, first 5 months. The second half of MLS season, or maybe closer to the last third of the season, the most important part of your season gets disrupted by a transfer window. Like people see July. This is another kind of misconception, is that people see July as the midway point of the season. It's not. In July, you're entering that final third stretch, the most critical stretch in MLS, maybe the most fun part of MLS, because hey, all of a sudden games become a lot more impactful. Points really start mattering. Those matchups against your Eastern Conference, Western Conference rivals really start having more weight at this point. This is when you need your best players, the best team you can put out is at this stage of the competition. And so when you're entering this critical stage and you have the biggest the global transfer window for the most part, interrupt that, I mean, it completely skews and affects the integrity of the competition as a whole. That team that's been dominating just lost their best player and their best right back, right? All of a sudden, how can you deal with that? I mean, and you can't really blame MLS teams because, like, hey, they're offering ridiculous money for our player. Like, we have to sell them, right? That's a big thing for me as well. I think it also helps just the not only does it help improve the quality in the league, but it also keeps the quality in the league for the most critical parts of it, right? For the most fun aspects of it.
Yeah, no, you brought up a good point too about it not being the halfway point, because the transfer window really hasn't even really opened up yet. Like there's still there's not many signings have been made, and yet there's only 10 games for some of these teams left. 10 out of they only have 10 games left. So you have 10.
Today.
Yeah, opens up today. And it's July 24, 2025. And there's only 10 games left. They've already played 24 matches. And sometimes, I don't want to spend too much time about a certain player, but I will use this guy as an example. Pep Biel was a late addition last year for Charlotte FC. And he kind of was, not as good as you would have liked him last year. He was okay. He wasn't great, wasn't bad. But look how much better he is now this season. So he's had a full entire offseason to integrate with his team. You just really don't know what you're going to get, especially when you have such limited time to integrate a key piece into your team.
Another thing too, that Charlotte FC itself, and I'm saying Charlotte FC because that's the team I follow most closely and have connections with. But like, because the window ends when it does, players can just hold out for better European offers. So, for example, like the way it's not like that's not like the July window closes with the European window too. If it did that, it would actually make a big difference. But it doesn't. It closes earlier. It closes like 3 weeks earlier than the European window. So all of a sudden, as an MLS team, you have no leverage. So in the window where you can, in theory, have most, you can really splash in this window because those are the most options. Players are looking for new teams. You don't even have any leverage because players are like, yeah, you're offering me, this much, but like we still have 3 weeks left in the window. Like I'm just gonna wait and see what else comes. Most business is done at the end of the window for a reason. And when you're not open for that latter portion of it, like you have zero leverage on the transfer market, zero. So
100%. So this is my second point. We hit on transfer window. That is very important in why this calendar change has happened. This is the second point. Okay. I think that one of the most detrimental things to Major League Soccer, Caleb, is that because of the way we play our schedule, we have way too much time off. If you're a club who doesn't make the playoffs, you're only playing competitive ball for maybe 6 to 7 months a year. How many top leagues around the world only play competitive matches for 6 to 7 months? Because the season starts in February, it ends in October, which is 8 months, right? But the problem is that because of all these tournaments that happen this summer or all these kind of different things, they're not actually playing 8 months, 9 months of competitive ball. They're playing more like 6 or 7 because they take all these breaks. They congest the schedule. Like, think about this. It's July. the regular season doesn't end until October, yet there's only 10 matches left. How many weeks did we just see where we're playing 2 a week, Wednesdays and Sundays? Yeah, or Saturdays. They're cramming it. They're trying to cram it in before the final stretch of the season. And I just think that that's not it. With this calendar, you would have the summer off, so you don't have to compete with Copa America, Gold Cup, World Cup, Club World Cup. There's a new tournament every summer, man. It feels like that there's something you're competing with. And now, don't get me wrong. There is going to be fans who are going to go to games no matter what. But besides the competitive advantage, like I just think it just kills the momentum when you have something overshadowing Major League Soccer going on at the same time.
On top of that, I'll add this. It also, because of that, it aligns with the international windows too.
Yeah.
Like competitive integrity, again, is also hindered in this situation because all of a sudden, in really critical stretches, like Charlotte FC just missed having Patrick Agimang and Tim Ream for 40 days. They were going for 40 days. Like what league in the world, right? What league in the world, what sort of competition where you could lose your player for 40 days because of a summer competition? Does that seem as fair and the right way to approach it? Like, I think also that's another big thing is being able to align with the windows, with the international windows is another huge advantage of this because again, it keeps the competitive integrity of the league. Teams are always performing. Like, and the thing is, those games during the international windows, they're like washed down games as well. Nobody's really interested because like Philly were missing, I think, like 6 or 7 guys. Yeah. So you have literally entire like starting 11s compromised, and then you're watching a washed down product because a lot of the starters are gone, and because of MLS's cap rules, the depth is not anywhere near the level of the starting 11 in most cases, right? So it's just a compounding effect of problems that comes with the current schedule that we have now.
Yeah, and also too, just to kind of hit on that, like Messi and Suarez missed 8 games last summer because of Copa America. Yep. They missed 8 games. So they missed almost 1/4 of their season because of this tournament. And when you have, obviously Major League Soccer considers them brands and they help, push the league forward. When they're missing 25% of the season because of an international tournament, that's bad. And also what happened? Messi got hurt. He didn't play in Leagues Cup last year. Leagues Cup was, whether you like it or love it, it was flat last year because they were missing some key players, right? And also too, I think that this is a whole other subject, but like Leagues Cup also kind of loses its gleam, its glamour because when you have this big tournament, Caleb, you kind of put all your eggs in that basket, man, and you're kind of like exhausted. You're like, oh man, that was great. Oh God, I don't want to run this back again. Like I kind of want to have a little breathing room. Like give me a little bit of break. Let me miss it. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. I just think that they're just maybe doing way too much, and they need to have this summer break. They need to let these players play in these international tournaments, like you said, like follow the international schedule, and I think that will help the league grow. Also, too, I want to point this or mention this to you because of this is another talking point people mention. They say that Major League Soccer would be, I don't want to say lost, but they would be missing out if they got away from their summer matches. That summer is just such an integral piece to Major League Soccer. And I want to ask you what you thought about that because MLS, I mean, it's just the regular season. And like I said, all this other things are going on. Like, is it really going to be that detrimental that we're missing the midway point of the season? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's really that integral, the middle of the season. That's what we're going to be upset about.
I will say the worst time to watch MLS is right in the middle of the season, which falls right in the summer. Like it's grog. Like middle of the season is an absolute grog in MLS because you don't have sort of the excitement of the initial part of the season coming in, and you also don't have like the pressures that come at the tail end of the season. But I do understand like that. Like I love for me. When European soccer stops playing, I love still being able to watch consistent soccer throughout summer. That's not tournament based. Like I love having my club come in the summer. Like I understand people, particularly if you're someone also that's local and actually attending games. Like soccer games are really great game. They're not a huge time commitment like football games. They're not as expensive as football games. Like it is a great family activity for the summertime. And I also can empathize with like season ticket holders who kind of like are betting on the summer because they have kids, right? They have kids. That's their summer break. They want, somewhere to take them and do stuff. So I can understand that completely. I just think that while yes, there are going to be some fans that are not, they're going to give up their season tickets. Yes, you may not have the kind of soccer that you want to watch. You may not be watching your team throughout the summer, but I just think that the long-term benefits of this shift overcome that, and in the long term will bring more fans. And especially if they do it right, if they're able to really be intentional about scheduling games, who's playing where at what times, having a break. I love I said it on Twitter already, but I would love to sort of model ourselves out of the Bundesliga, which is they have this long month break for the holidays. I also think it helps with the middle grog of the season. It gives teams and players a break, an emotional break, a physical break. They can come back to the second half coming hard, and I think it just increases the energy and level of games and quality of matches. And for the teams that play in cold markets, maybe be intentional about scheduling some away matches in the South, right? For that, like February's part, like particularly for February, which I think February is still brutal in parts of the US. Like seeing some of those teams play on the road a little more in southern markets. Like there are ways to get around it. Is it going to be perfect? No. Are people like not going to show up to some of these cold games? Absolutely. But like come on, like NFL teams, the Pittsburgh Steelers are freaking packed out in the winter.
Green Bay Packers
empty. The Packers, I mean, even the Giants, whatever it is, like American fans will come out to these cold games. Like it's a matter of, hey, there's an attachment there. I understand that these teams have like long followings, and maybe MLS fans are a little more lukewarm, and I don't know what it may be. Regardless, is cold weather has not been an excuse in football, and it shouldn't be an excuse in soccer.
No, I agree, man, and that's a good segue to the weather point because that's another big talking point. People, they always rebuttal when you mention this calendar change. So, like I mentioned earlier, the current calendar is February to December. If things go well for you in the playoffs, right? I just don't understand why people don't realize they're already playing in February. And like you said, like if you're up north, if you're in Minnesota, if you're in Toronto, if you're in Montreal, you can schedule around the cold games. You could play. There was a time because I mentioned, I'm like, why don't you just play your first 4 games on the road? And then you get 4 home games in a row. Like that would be pretty nice. Could you imagine if you didn't have to leave? I mean, yes, you'd have to leave for a month, but you got to stay at home for a month. That'd be pretty nice. I remember at one point, Toronto FC were working on BMO Field, and because the construction was so delayed and it took longer than they thought, they played their first like 8 games on the road. They played 2 months straight on the road, and that's brutal. Like I'm not saying that they need to play 2 months on the road, but they did get to play 2 months in a row at home, which was pretty nice. But yeah, I mean, there's like Caleb, 10 years ago, there were only 20 teams. So it was harder. There wasn't a lot of Southern teams like you mentioned, or that there are a lot more Southern teams now than there used to be. It was hard to geographically maybe do this. But now that there's 30 teams, you have a lot more flexibility. There are more West Coast teams. There are obviously more Southern teams. There is a way to do this. And I see fans saying, I'm going to cancel my season tickets. I'm not going to go to games anymore. I'm not going to watch anymore. And like that kind of like irked me a little bit because it just makes me think, like, obviously you're a huge Lazio fan and a Charlotte FC fan. I just can't imagine that if a calendar changes, you would throw away your fandom. Like, I don't understand how that would even be an option. Like, are you really a fan if you're willing to throw it away because of a calendar change?
And I think it comes down to this. Most MLS seasons start that last week of February. You're literally playing in February 2 more weeks. It's 2 weeks in February. That's it. You're adding 2 matches in February. That's really that's really the most significant difference is you're adding just 2 matches in February. So, 2 matches. That can be on the road. It doesn't even need to be the whole month. If you really like, if February 24th is the perfect start date for the season, okay, play the last 2 weeks on the road. And then boom, you're back at home when you normally would be back at home for any other MLS season. And of course, the lack of games in the summer too. But I also think something that gets overlooked is we only see one extreme as bad. We only see extreme cold as
I
bad.
was about to say yes, because we live in the South. We see this.
When I mean I don't have any data to back this, but I swear I see more health issues come along in playing in extreme heat than I see with extreme cold.
Yes.
Now, of course, there's issues in both, but there's a reason you get breaks in the summer. You don't get when you're playing in cold weather. There's no breaks. You don't get a break. You need a break in 100-degree weather. Even playing in Charlotte, you're playing in 95-degree weather with 90% humidity. Even just a
Oh,
market like this,
yeah.
it's brutal. And yes, like for me, I grew up here. I used to play 4 games a weekend in this kind of weather, and so with that said, I think it's like, hey, why do we think it's okay to expose our players to extreme heat where we see a lot of issues come from that as well. And we're perfectly cool, we're perfectly cool with players playing in extreme heat. And then we're like, oh my goodness, they're playing extreme cold. Like, how they gonna, what they gonna do with that? They can't make it out. Like, you can always bundle up. You moving, you're keeping warm. It's much, I think, as an athlete, um, both suck to play in, but in the cold weather, you at least have some avenues. You can't strip naked.
No.
You can't strip naked in a soccer game. There's only so much you can do in the heat. That's why they have breaks.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. You can always warm yourself. That's why I tell my wife with the air conditioning, right? I like my house a little colder. I say you can always warm up, but how am I supposed to cool down without the air conditioning, right? That's what I always tell her. I'm like, go put a jacket on, get a blanket, right? Put some socks on. But yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the Texas heat is pretty brutal, man. It's brutal in the South completely. I mean, yes, it is. I'm sure that going to a 12-degree, 15-degree weather soccer match would suck. But it also sucks going to a 100-degree soccer match. When I went to that game in Charlotte last year, June 14th, man, I was sweating my ass off. The humidity was crazy. I mean, it's brutal. It's brutal. And it's hard to sit there, for 2.5 hours in that hot weather. I mean, I can only imagine what the players feel like after 90 minutes. But I want to move on to my final point, which is the playoff format, the viewership, right? That this will help make the league more popular. So before we get into this, I want to show you this clip of Don Garber being asked about the playoffs and competing with other leagues in the United States, because that's always a talking point. So let me play this real quick.
Mm-hmm. If you shift the schedule, does that put you in competition with the NFL?
Well, I think we're actually in competition with the other major leagues even more now, right? So we do have the summer where, baseball, there are many other sports that do play in the summer. The other leagues are stretching their seasons longer. But, the most important part of any league's competition is your playoffs and your final. And we're right smack in the busiest time in the major leagues. And that's part of our decision making.
So Don Garber says that, right now, the summer, obviously they're only competing with baseball, but he just said that right now we're right smack in the middle of NFL, college football, NBA season starting up, NHL season starting up, even the back end of the MLB playoffs.
Yep.
So we're competing right now, Caleb, with the most important during our most important time of our season, the playoffs.
Yeah.
Is now competing with all these other sports. Has to be hurting the popularity.
Man, I think that I think right now, I don't even think that's a factor. Like, I think people that watch MLS, like watching people who watch MLS and NFL, nothing's gonna stop you from watching either one, right? Like, many times MLS games are scheduled in a way that's different from like NFL. Like, we don't do the Sunday we used to have these Sunday blocks of games, right, in MLS where there'd be a game at 1, 4, and 7. With Apple, it's changed. And okay, yes, there's an argument there, but nowadays, I think there's very few blocks with those really sort of clash, and it's
even college football, though, because I mean, I want to point this out too. The MLS Cup final was on the college football championship day. All the conference championship games were the same exact day. And I agree that there's not like all these college football fans or MLS fans, but I do think there are people who are casual Major League Soccer fans who are going to watch their college football, maybe instead of the MLS Cup, because it just matters more to them. And I just think that I'll let you finish your point, but I just wanted to say that I think that if you had your only competition was basketball In hockey, those numbers aren't as good as college football or NFL. They're just not.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. I think you're going to compete either way. Like, there's no escaping the U.S. sports landscape. It's a very unique one. We understand that no other country in the world has as many sports and things to watch than the U.S. does. It's a unique space, unique landscape. You're going to compete either way. I like the idea of May being playoffs because you're not really competing with NBA at that point. Still, you're not competing with NHL. I'm a big hockey guy. You're not competing with NHL. You're not competing with NFL, right? I think, like you said, the peak point of the season is this final third of the season, right? It's this last stretch where things get really interesting. If there's one moment you want people to tune into, it's the playoffs. And I think having playoffs in May works beautifully because you just avoid the spring sport, the kind of fall spring sports of NBA, MLB, all this stuff. You avoid their playoffs. Their playoffs are a little deeper into the summer. And instead you have, I think, this really perfect window to kind of really showcase MLS to the country by yourself with really very little competition. So for me, it's like you said, regular season, whatever. But I want the best way to sell the league is for the people to watch playoffs. Like when I tell people to get into MLS, I'm like maybe don't tune into like a game in July because it's not going to be a great game in July in Charlotte, right?
Yeah.
But I have a very easy time pitching like, hey, MLS playoffs are starting right now. Like this is the time to jump into. And most casuals will also naturally just kind of choose that time. Like many like NHL casuals, they don't watch regular season. There's like 81 games in NHL, but they're tuned in right on those playoff games. So I think we have a really a perfect window for the playoffs to line up in a spot where there's really no competition.
No, I agree. And also too, like I see this a lot on Twitter and X. I would much rather compete against playoff basketball because they don't play every night anyways. And it's a 7-game series. And I love the NBA. I'm a huge NBA fan.
Mm-hmm.
But the NFL is one a week and college football is one a week. It's like the MLS. It's amplified. It's one game. It's, you don't miss it.
Mm-hmm.
NBA, NHL, it's a series, it's not everybody's watching every game. It's just a fact, right? In the playoffs.
Yeah.
You can even see the playoffs numbers haven't been good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if they align themselves with the European schedule and they make this big event, May, it's MLS Cup final week in May. Don't miss this game. I think they will do better numbers than they ever have done. And also, too, you ready for this? This goes back to our weather point. How much more enjoyable would it be to go to a game in May than December?
This is what I'm saying. That's one thing I've always hated.
A final.
That's what I've hated about a December final. I'm like, guys, like awful to play. And it affects, again, the fun of the game. Like May weather in most markets is fantastic. Like it's
fantastic.
So nice. And that also just improves the quality of the product as well. I mean, I think games, like the way teams play in the winter, like in November compared to May, there is a very distinct difference. And it also, again, I think it puts also a more level playing field. Like, players who are used to, the New England Revolution, right? Those players are used to playing in the cold. And I'm not sure how big of a factor this really is, but it goes along with the point of it's a really even playing field playing in May. No one's getting hindered by the weather. Everyone's on an equal playing field. Like you're not, in New England Revolution, you have an advantage because you're used to just playing in miserable cold weather all the time. They won't have an advantage, right? And I love that idea. I love playoffs in May. That's so much more fun. Attendance is going to spike like crazy for playoffs. So yeah,
It'll be records. And so I just want to tie this all together with what the proposal I think we both agree on. August till December, probably mid-December would be the first half of the season. Take a 2-week break towards the end of December. Take the whole entire month of January off, like you said, kind of like the Bundesliga model, which they've been doing it fine for years, right? Or decades. And so you take off the month of January. So that is statistically, you can look this up, guys. Statistically, the coldest month in North America is January. Okay. You're taking that whole month off. That's acceptable. That's understandable. Okay. We agree on that. You start back up in February. Like we said, they do the road schedule for the colder climate teams. and then the regular season ends at the end of April. I say you play all the way through April, and then the entire month of May is playoffs. 4 weeks straight of playoffs. That sounds incredible, man. That sounds absolutely incredible. And I think that having the MLS Cup final the last Saturday of May would be great. And then maybe have the last final, or maybe have the CONCACAF champions. That's another thing we didn't even touch on. Think about, just real quick, think about all the years we've lost the Champions Cup final because we're at different points of our season. We're playing games to advance essentially at the beginning of our season.
100%. And also, I mean, maybe this is, I don't know if this is controversial or not, but also we can get rid of Leagues Cup.
Yeah.
It's more likely we get rid of Leagues Cup, or it's a great preseason tournament.
Or what if we played that in the winter? We played that in January.
We'll play only in southern markets, right? You played in the Texas, in the Phoenix, in Mexico, like northern tip of Mexico. Like there's so much. Yeah, there's just too many pros for me to warrant like maybe a few hundred people not going to the games anymore, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Okay, so last question I have for you: if MLS does this, right, changes this league, which I think that's going to happen, I think it's inevitable at this point. If they weren't going to do it, they wouldn't keep talking about it. Now, are they afraid to do it? Maybe a little bit. Like they're talking about they're excited to do it, but they're afraid to take that jump, the leap.
Yeah.
So how much would this improve the league if they do this? What is the trajectory? What do you think this will do for the league if they actually do it?
I think it would help it drastically. I told you I'm more so concerned about the long-term benefits of this. And for me I think that we're going to see aligning with the market. I think it's going to shift the league into also be more inclined to increase those caps. I think the league with a drastic change like this, for me, that signals that the league very much wants to compete on the global stage and actually mean it. They say it a lot right now, but there's not much action being taken to actually back it. So I think making a shift like this very much is a clear indicator that the owners or want to be more ambitious. It shows ambition from ownership. It shows ambition from the commissioner himself, Don Garber. I think a drastic shift like this is sort of the gateway drug to bigger shifts like the cap, right?
Yeah.
EP slots, right? So that for me, that's what that signals. I think this shift really changes the landscape for MLS in the long term. And we've had some incredible growth the past 10 years. I think the next 10 years are going to be even more exponential.
I hope you're right, my friend. I hope you're right. We'll see. Looks like the earliest starting date for this would be 2027. They didn't get it done before the World Cup, which is fine. I'm just happy that they're doing it in general. Caleb, appreciate you for your time, my friend. Before I let you go, where can people follow you at, and where can they check your great Lazio podcast out with our friend Sean McIntosh?
Well, follow me on my Twitter. It's Caleb Adams. I talk a lot of Charlotte FC, Lazio, and U.S. national team on there. Our Lazio podcast is Lazio World. You can find us as Lazio World on pretty much every platform, Spotify. And I also just re-released my old blog, Regal Soccer, through Substack, regalsoccer.substack.com. If you want to check in there. I'm not doing that often. I'm doing it for fun. It's more for the LOLs. But if you're in the Charlotte market or the South Carolina, definitely the go-to for Charlotte FC stuff.
Make sure you check him out. I appreciate your time, my friend. Hope we changed your mind if you were on the fence about the calendar. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.